Okay, let's get started. Hello and welcome everybody to today's Sigstore office hours on today, the 8th of November. I'm pleased to say we have a pretty packed schedule today, so lots of exciting things coming up. Presentation from DB Schenker, an update on Sigstore JS, and also some more on Sigstore operators from Felix. Just before we jump into that, I'd just like to remind folks to please sign in. There is a section later on for any questions or comments you might have. And specifically, I just wanted to give a shout out to the folks who had the Sigstore paper published this week. So Zach, John Speed, and Santiago. It's pretty great to see that peer-reviewed paper go live. And they're at CCS this week, and they'll be presenting it. So hats off to all their work on that. And I know they interviewed a bunch of folks in the community as well who contributed to that. Really nice to see this go live, and nice success for the community as a whole. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that paper, and feel free to share it and do check it out as well. Lots of good stuff in there. Okay, and with that, we're going to launch straight into the demos. So up first, we have Tobias. So I will stop sharing, and Tobias, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Sure. Give me a sec. That will be this one. Okay. So as I've seen that the agenda is more packed than I've expected, I will try to make it really, really short, because I think some of the parts that I'm trying to share today was already presented in another way at the CosignCon. But anyway, hello everyone. I'm Toby. I work for DB Schenker, and more specifically in the Global IT and Land Digital Solutions, in short, GILDS. At DB Schenker, we do not only deploy containers, we also ship them. This is like our main business. You probably have seen this red logo at some point, more or less, because we are operating worldwide. We have separate kinds of specialities, and there you already see one of the things that DB Schenker that makes DB Schenker a little bit more special. So we have land transport, ocean freight, air freight, and also contract logistic in their supply chain management, which is not to be confused with supply chain management in IT or computer science. We are talking about like the physical part. And as this is a very global and diverse place from a software point of view or organizational point of view, we are following the Spotify model. So we have tribes, we have squads, and we have a shared ownership of basically everything. And this brings us in the more technical part. What does this imply and what does it mean? We have a completely developer-owned CI workflow. So we as DevOps engineers are part of a technical developer round, and we help developers come up with goals and define their CI standards and define a little bit the workflow that they want to build in. But we cannot enforce anything here. So we can, of course, say, hey, you should have a antivirus scan, or you should have password detection before you build an OCR image, but we cannot enforce them. If the developers of a specific squad decide that they do not want to have this, then they do not want to have this. This also implies that we cannot have this nice full chain of everyone creates an SBOM file, signs it, and we can cryptographically validate the complete chain. What is completely in DevOps hands for security reasons is the deployment part. And this is basically where the shared default pipeline ends or begins for us with the deployment step. This is done in Jenkins, and this is where we want to create trust, because this is now currently the picture that we have. We have a GitLab registry, which is our Docker registry. All OCI images are in here. We have a Jenkins that we trust, and we trust our Kubernetes clusters. What we do not trust is the Docker images inside the registry, because we do not control how they are built. And if a developer decides that they want to install the whole internet or definitely .virus, .exe, .jpeg inside their Docker images, then this is something that can just simply happen. So what we did, we created a Jenkins pipeline for deployment that should enable us to create trust. We take care in this pipeline to create and update the namespaces, for example, for enforcement of Linkerd, set RBAC permissions, enforce kube2am role permissions. Also, by the way, this red points, I will get to them a little bit later. We have the option on the namespace level to enforce only signed images. And when I say we want to create trust, I'm primarily focusing here on this big validate step. I'm not sure if you can see this greatly, but this is the one that after the deployment takes the most amount of time. What we do there is we validate the deployment using OPA. We are creating an automated language detection to see what kind of programming language was used in order to more granularly take care of taking an educated guess what is inside of this image. And we also scan for viruses and known vulnerabilities using Trivia and ClamAV. And once this validate check has passed, this is a very strict one, which fails often due to our enforcements, we take care of doing this. We are automatically signing the images before we deploy them. So we have a proof that this specific image has passed our security standard or has been validated by us and can be assumed safe in our Kubernetes cluster, can run. And this is the tooling that we've chosen here. So of course, the primary part is cosign. This is also why I'm here, because it's an amazing tool that enables us to do very secure deployment. And we are using HashiCorp Vault as our KMS. And we are using Kyverno to validate that only signed images can be deployed in our Kubernetes cluster. As already stated, we are using GitLab for our registry, and there used to be an issue with the cleanup policy of GitLab conflicting with the zero or with the repeatable build of the signature that is stored in the GitLab registry. But thanks to the great community, this has been resolved already. As I was already mentioning, this is a little bit more into the process again. We cannot really force any developers to do anything. So we are doing microservices, but some services are just done with development. So they are not deployed that often. And therefore, as this is an incremental change, we need to monitor how many people or how many developers or squads have already or are already working with completely signed images in their namespace. Therefore, we've created a little Python application to just check. I'm just scrolling in here. I cannot show you the namespaces, but this is basically how it looks like. We are continuously checking how many namespaces are fully signed and how many are partly or not signed at all. And once we've detected that a namespace is fully signed, we can set a flag in the namespace that enables this specific Kyverno policy right here to block anything that is not signed by our public key. And that makes Kyverno very happy. At least I hope that it makes Kyverno very happy. Sadly, this is not 100% the case, and we still have some issues that we need to solve. The first one that I've already mentioned is the one regarding timestamps of signature, but this one has been resolved via pull request 2108 that I wrote, but I did not have the feeling that I wrote it that much because there was so much support from one of the developers that I was basically just following orders here. The other thing that we have that is a little bit of a problematic situation that we have right here, we are still unsure how to handle dangly layers of the rebuild. So basically the question how to treat latest. We already know that latest is an anti-pattern, it should not be used, but still we have squads that think it would make more sense to use latest all the time. And once an image is rebuilt, the latest tag gets overwritten and therefore cleaned up by the policy at some point. And its cosign is only signing on a SHA basis that would invalidate it at some point for the running deployment, that is. And we also have a very, very big problem with the image validation in Kyverno in regards to a conflict of patching with Linkerd. So we're using in Linkerd auto patching, and as both of them are mutating webhooks, they conflict with each other and create a race condition where the validation just simply fails because the original deployment has been tampered with. So yeah, these are our current approach to securing the Kubernetes deployments, or not that much the deployments, but the images, and create a little bit more trust on a more untrusted environment, thanks to Cosign. I hope I made it short enough. So are there any questions? Maybe we still have some time for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that was a great presentation. So yeah, people, go ahead.
Hey,
And he's gone.
Okay, hopefully you can come back in. Maybe one question I had is, everything you're signing going into the Rico public log, like, is everyone pretty happy with doing it that way?
No, we are pushing the signatures back into our GitLab registry.
Okay. Fabian, did I see you end up?
Yeah, but I think vPol is also back.
sorry, I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, my question was about, how are you using Kyverno with Vault? Like, what exactly are you fetching from Vault? Are you using Vault as a backend for Fulshio?
Sorry, as a what?
Sorry, Vault as a backend for Fulshio, or how are you using Vault for with Kyverno? You showed a picture where you had Cosign, and then you were obviously communicating with Vault, and then you had Kyverno communicating with Vault. So I'm just trying to figure like how are you making use of Vault in this scenario?
Kyverno basically allows you to authenticate against Vault. So you need to create environment variable. No, I don't think they're allowing environment variables. I think in our configuration we have a .vault token directly so mounted as a secret in the container, and this enables the authentication against Vault from
Right.
Kyverno's
Okay.
side.
Okay. All right. I see what you mean. Okay. I was trying to make Fulshio work with Vault to provide, like the CI certificates. I was just a bit very curious how Vault is being used right now in the community. So thanks for the heads up.
My colleague who originally wanted to do this presentation with me created an operator for that. It's called a Vault CRD operator, where you can basically define a custom resource definition that would enable you to get something from the Vault. So maybe this is something that you want to try.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, thanks. I will have a look. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got one question. I'm curious. Do you monitor? I mean, you're using a public key or like a key that you have in your vault. Do you monitor the record log for key misuse? I mean, if the key got leaked, how would you know?
We are using the encryption as a service part of Vault here. So in theory, we could rotate this key, but that would, of course, invalidate all the image signatures. We are not actively monitoring this because we trust that Vault has not been tampered with.
Okay.
Because I think, as far as I know, in HashiCorp Vault, this is in a trusted enclave, and you cannot easily extract the private key.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So having worked at an enterprise and knowing how motivated people are to move towards better security, how do you get more people to this fully signed column instead of the partially or not at all signed?
That's a great question. We are currently in discussing a little bit, because this is more or less an enterprise decision where everyone needs to be on board with. And the thing that we have is we can define SLAs on certain things. No, sorry, not SLAs, KPIs, so key performance indicators. And these key performance indicators directly correlate with a monetary bonus that each squad gets at the end of the business year. And we are currently in clarification if we might take the signing percentage as part of these KPIs, and therefore create extrinsic motivation to move to this 100%.
So make people pay for their bad practices. I like that.
Yes, basically this.
Great.
If there
Any
are
more
no
questions? Okay, let's leave it there. But yeah, fantastic presentation. Thanks so much for sharing that. And yeah, do keep us in touch with anything we can help with on the Sigstore side and keep things moving forward. Great. Okay, so from Tobias, let's go to Brian, who's going to talk about the Sigstore bundle format in Sigstore.js.
Yeah, I was here at the community meeting, I guess, I don't know, a few months ago talking about Sigstore.js, but I thought it might be good to come back and give a little update. Let's see, is my screen coming through? I think it is. Yeah, so the last couple of months I've been working on this implementation of Sigstore.js, which is, you can think of kind of like Cosine, but written in native JavaScript instead. The primary use case that we have for this is that we want to integrate this capability actually into the NPM CLI directly. We have this goal, and there's a RFC for anybody who's interested in reading up more on this, but to basically automatically generate provenance, in toto provenance statements as part of like an NPM publish process that would then get signed via Sigstore and published alongside your NPM package to your NPM registry. And then this stuff will all get, in theory, at some point, verified on at installation time, so that you can sort of have some confidence that these packages you're downloading off of the NPM registry came from where you think they came from. So there's a bigger effort afoot to sort of implement all of that stuff. But one of the core components of this is the implementation of this Sigstore.js library that, again, does sort of the standard Sigstore signing and verification workflows, but in JavaScript. So one of the things that, one of the changes that has been made to this recently is in response to this effort that's been underway to define sort of a generalized bundle format for information about artifacts that have been signed via Sigstore. This was led largely by one of the engineers on my team, Frederick. But the idea here is to sort of create a portable like format for storing all of the metadata about the artifact and you know, recore entries and full CO certificates in a way that it could be used across implementations. So in theory, I should be able to generate a bundle that then could be verified by Cosine or some other tool that conforms to this. So a lot of work has gone into this, and I've built at least the current version of the bundle format into the Sigstore.js tool. So I thought it would be fun to show that for a minute here. I'm going to, I have just a standard, or rather a dummy in toto attestation that I'm going to sign here. This, in theory, looks like something that could get generated by the NPM CLI as a package is being published. Metadata in here about where the source for the package came from, what particular SHA we're building from, some information about the environment in which the package was being built. When we go to sign one of these things, I'm going to use a command that I have built in here to the Sigstore.js project. I'm going to take that attestation, that ATT file I showed you, and I'm going to run this through the like signing workflow, and then I'm going to spit the output of this out into a bundle file that I'll show you here in a second. So I'm going to have to authenticate myself, get an OIDC token that gets handed to Fulcio for a cert. The key in the sort of ephemeral key that we generate gets used to sign the attestation. That thing then gets published to Recore. And at the end of it, what we get out is we get this new Sigstore bundle format that looks something like this. So it's sort of a JSON structure, but we have metadata in here for the transparency log. This is sort of the Recore entry info. We have the whole certificate chain that is returned by Fulcio here. This is the Dizzy envelope, contains the payload, in this case, the payload being that in toto attestation that I showed you a minute ago. And then down here at the very bottom, the signature that was generated like over that payload. So with this bundle, with all of this sort of metadata captured in one place, doing offline verification of this now becomes fairly straightforward. My little CLI here has a verify command where I can pass in this same bundle that I just generated, and we get out a message that says verified okay, sort of showing that like, yes, everything in here checks out, just to prove that I'm not totally making this up. If we go into the bundle and start manipulating this, say I change the like, you know, payload type associated with my Dizzy envelope, I'm gonna just change this application, you know, JSON MIME type. I'm gonna change one of the characters in there. And if I, whoops, if I try to re-verify this, in this case, I get a note saying like, hey, artifact, the signature verification failed in this case because I have like, you know, changed the contents of the payload here. Similarly, there's verification of the like Recore entry that happens here as well. One of the things that we get in the like transparency log data here is we get this signed entry timestamp, which is a signature that's generated over a bunch of the like Recore data to sort of prove that like the timestamp that we have here actually matches something that was posted to Recore. So if I were to change, say, the integrated time here, I'll change this last 4 to a 0. Save that, re-verify this, and similarly, I'm going to get a verification error here saying that the set verification failed. So the next bit that I don't have implemented yet that we want to do, obviously, is doing a verification of the whole like Fulcio certificate chain, making sure that the signing certificate here actually can be traced back to sort of the root Fulcio certificate. That's slightly problematic in JavaScript just because the support for like X509 certificate parsing and handling is not that great in this ecosystem, but we're actively working on implementation to get that solved as well. But we have a good chunk of the verification sort of algorithm implemented at this point, the Fulcio cert chain being the sort of outlier there. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to show, just that we've got the bundle format. I know that like this is support for this bundle format is going to be coming to Cosign shortly. I know there's people also on my team that are sort of working towards that. And I suspect that all the other sort of major like language implementations of this will follow suit shortly thereafter. So that's all I got. Any questions?
I was going to say pretty sweet demo and really nice to see the bundle format out in the wild. And, yeah, and congratulations, we saw the RFC got merged for PM.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it's really nice to see it steaming ahead.
Great, thanks.
Hey Brian, this is pretty cool. I just got one, I think, pretty general question. Like as I'm seeing, there's a Rust client and other libraries and other languages. Is there like a spec that you develop against or a common test suite that you have? So where all sort of clients can compare their functionality?
Yeah, that's not something that exists at the moment, but I know that there have been like active discussions. I think there was a lot of conversation at KubeCon last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was, about needing to develop something like that. So
okay.
Yeah, and there's a group that's working towards that. Let me get you the repo because they're working towards the architecture docs and having kind of the standardized spec for all different parts of Sigstore. Drop in. Yeah, protobuf spec, and then you can also
Protobuf specs.
the architecture docs there's a nice landing page in there as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hop in a little bit here. I know Ozra is probably the best person to talk to about this, but basically the idea here is to have like a language agnostic spec that we could, exactly as you said before, like run test suites and run like sort of common behavior across. Protobuf is just like a nice mechanism to make that language agnostic. So that's like the ultimate goal there. So if you're interested, please help out.
All right. Yeah, I gotta fix my deployment first, and then I will.
Right. Any other questions? And yeah, maybe one thing worth mentioning as well. I don't know if folks saw William Woodruff's post, but he did mention they were gonna look at doing some work on like a test suite, a conformance test suite that could apply to all the different language clients. I'll drop a link in, but yeah, lots of activity happening in the space. Okay, thanks a lot, Brian. And now let's hand over to Felix, who's going to talk to us about Sigstore operators.
Yes, hello. My name is Felix. I been here before, I guess. And back then I was like asking about best practices on operating a private Sigstore deployment that didn't exist. So yeah, here I am starting sort of, or like making some noise for the private Sigstore users channel. Yeah, we changed the name from operators to users to avoid confusion with Kubernetes operators. And like the primary goal is to come up with a user's manual that you can basically refer to if you want to stand up your own private Sigstore deployment and all the things that you need to sort of know, how to do backups, disaster recovery, key rotation, and this kind of stuff. And I was thinking of proposing a fortnightly call on this specific topic, but seeing that the office hours are not really strongly frequented, I'm second guessing now that idea. Basically up for discussion. What do you think? Do you think there's a need for this? Do you think it's like okay if we can discuss these sort of talking points? If anybody has a problem with their private deployment on this in this format, I don't mind. I'm happy being here anyway.
Yeah, my 2 cents, I think it's fine. We can have it as a standing agenda item, like after demos. And if there's a discussion that kind of like a bigger discussion might warrant kind of spinning off a dedicated meeting, we can do that. But yeah, having updates here and discussing some kind of key considerations, I think is useful, definitely, based on some of the case studies we're seeing people come in with.
Okay, great. Then let's leave it the way it is. And yeah, so maybe two more words on the document that you see linked right now. So right now, like we're trying, there's another company that's having the same issue, like problem as I do, called Equinix. And right now we're still like grappling a bit with the key management side. The backups are pretty well understood, and the one thing that's missing from the manual and that I will add in a few days is essentially how to use the Helm charts to stand up your repo, how to add decks, and how to configure your own GitHub integration, so to speak, etc., and how to make it all work together. And then our ideal goal would be to integrate it into the Sigstore docs, so it's accessible to everybody without knowing where to look and how to find the specific Google Doc. But I think that's like a topic for when it's actually ready. So yeah, if you're curious and want to learn more, please join the channel. Hit me up. Happy to share. Happy to help. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Felix. And yeah, thanks a lot for driving this initiative. And also extend an invitation to the Equinix folks if you do want to do a presentation about the specific way you're using it and give some context. and then that can help just drive some of those conversations. Yeah, more than welcome, and yeah, feel free to reach out to me and we can get something scheduled.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Pool is already on the call, so who knows?
Yeah, so we kind of, in the very early stages of setting it up locally in our environment. So I'm kind of playing around with making sure we do this right from the very beginning. Like we want to have a Vault backend with HSM so that we keep the CA keys within the HSM and then sign the CA. So we're trying to make sure we do this the right way from the very beginning. And yeah, I'm gonna come up with some questions very soon. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so now we're going to move into just any other business. I had one shout out on behalf of Zach has been looking at some work around Sigstore versioning. So basically some proposals about how can we tighten up what we mean by different versions and what people can expect from versioning and backwards compatibility. So just dropped a link into the chat, and it's also in the document. I really encourage folks to have a look at the various proposals and would love to hear, especially from users, which of those kind of meet their expectations around versioning. So yeah, please take a look and provide any input or feedback. Okay, and finally, yeah, we'll come to any Q&A or introduction. So this is just open floor for anybody who wants to ask a question or make a comment or highlight something they've been working on. Yeah, feel free just to raise your hand or just go ahead and let me start speaking. Going once, going twice. Okay, sounds like we're all good for this week. But yeah, thanks everybody, especially the presenters. That was a really great session today. And next week, we have the contributor-focused community session and office hours again in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.